There's a moment almost everyone has, usually late at night, scrolling past a story about some family that's been wealthy for 3, 4, 5 generations. And the thought that creeps in isn't envy exactly. It's something quieter. A feeling like they were just born into a different set of rules than you were. Like the game had already been decided before you even got your turn. Here's what nobody tells you about that feeling. You're half right and half completely wrong. Because generational wealth was never really about the money that got passed down. Money without the right mindset evaporates faster than most people think. There's actually a well-documented pattern of families who inherit fortunes and lose almost all of it within 2 generations, sometimes even 1. Not because they were careless or unlucky or bad with numbers. Because nobody ever handed them the actual thinking that built the fortune in the first place. So if it's not the money, what is it? What actually survives from one generation to the next, quietly, invisibly, doing more work than any inheritance check ever could? That's what today is about. And I mean that more seriously than it sounds, because the 7 things I'm about to walk you through aren't abstract theory. They're patterns you can start applying this week, with whatever amount of money you currently have right now, no matter how small it feels. Stay with me until the end, because mindset number 5 is the one that almost never gets talked about, and it might be the one quietly working against you right now, without you even noticing it. Most of us were taught that wealth is a number, a salary, a savings account, something you either have enough of or you don't. It's a clean way to think about it. It's also partially wrong, and I think it's worth sitting with, because wealth that lasts isn't a number at all. It's a set of decisions repeated so consistently over years that they stop feeling like decisions and start feeling like personality. Nobody hands you a manual for this. You either grow up around it, absorbing it without realizing you're being taught anything, or you don't, and you spend your adult life engineering it from scratch, usually the hard way. Hi, my name is Alpha, and in this video I want to walk you through 7 mindsets that show up again and again in families and individuals who build wealth that actually survives. Not just wealth that shows up for a photo and disappears by the next decade. None of these require a head start. None of these require an inheritance. What they require is a way of thinking that almost nobody explains clearly, because it's not exciting enough to teach in school, and it doesn't fit neatly into a single lesson plan. Let me show you what I mean instead of just telling you. Think about the family that wins the lottery and is broke again within 5 years. It happens far more often than people assume, and it's not because they're foolish people. It's usually because a sudden pile of money got handed to a mindset that was never built to hold it, so it slipped right through, the same way water slips through open hands. Now think about a different family. They start with almost nothing. No safety net worth, no advantage, nothing handed to them at all. And yet 3 generations later, they're still financially stable, still building, still passing something real forward to the next person in line. Same amount of luck involved in either direction, statistically speaking. Wildly different outcome, decades later. The difference was never the money itself. It was what each of them quietly believed about money, and what they did with it when nobody else was watching. When there was no camera, no audience, no proof required of them. That's the part I want you to really sit with before we go any further. Wealth that lasts isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself at parties. It's built in 1,000 small, unglamorous decisions that nobody ever claps for. And once you understand that, the whole idea of generational wealth stops feeling like something reserved for other families with a head start, and starts feeling like something you could actually begin building this month, starting from wherever you already are. Mindset 1. They treat money as a tool, not an identity. This is the quiet root of almost everything else on this list, and it's the one people skip past fastest because it sounds too simple to actually matter. But sit with it for a second. For a lot of people, money becomes tangled up with self-worth without them ever noticing it happening. Earning more starts to feel like becoming more. Spending on the right things starts to feel like proving something, to other people, or quietly just to themselves, in a mirror nobody else can see. Families who build lasting wealth separate those two things early, almost instinctively, the way you'd separate your job from your personality. Money is just a resource being pointed somewhere useful. It's not a scoreboard for how much they matter as a human being. That single separation changes almost every financial decision that follows it, because a smaller car doesn't look like you are small anymore. A rejected upgrade doesn't feel like a downgrade. You can finally make a colder, clearer decision about a dollar once that dollar stops quietly representing your entire sense of worth. Mindset 2. They think in decades, not paychecks. Here's where simple math becomes almost unfair. In the best possible way, money that's invested and left alone doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows on itself, meaning the growth eventually starts generating its own growth, quietly, in the background, without asking anything more of you. That process needs time far more than it needs size. A modest amount left alone for 25 years can genuinely outgrow a much larger amount left alone for only 5 years. Most people are optimizing for this month, this paycheck, this immediate sense of relief. Lasting wealth gets built by people quietly optimizing for a version of themselves, or their kids, they won't even meet for another decade or two. And honestly, think about how strange that is, emotionally. You're being asked to sacrifice something today for a person you can't fully picture yet, who doesn't exist yet in any tangible way you can hold on to. That's not really a math problem, it's a patience problem, wearing a math costume. Mindset 3. They normalize discomfort instead of avoiding it. Not extreme suffering, not living on nothing, just small, manageable discomfort, chosen on purpose, over and over again, quietly, without anyone noticing. Driving the older car a little longer than feel comfortable, waiting on the upgrade even when the new one is one click away. Saying no to the version of a purchase that would look impressive to other people but doesn't actually change anything real about their day-to-day life. That small, repeated discomfort is often the entire gap between people who build something lasting and people who spend right at the exact edge of what they earn, no matter how large that number eventually becomes. And here's the part that tends to surprise people the most. This discomfort actually gets easier over time. It stops feeling like a restriction. It starts to feel more like clarity, like finally seeing which purchases were ever going to matter and which ones were just noise. Before I get into the mindset almost nobody talks about, if these first 3 are already landing somewhere real for you, go ahead and hit the like button. Drop a comment telling me which mindset you already have and which one you're clearly missing, and subscribe if you haven't yet. Okay, here's where it actually gets interesting. Mindset 4. They build systems instead of relying on willpower. Willpower is unreliable, and I think most of us already know that from lived experience, even if we don't say it out loud very often. It's strong on a good day and completely absent on a stressful one, a tired one. A day when something else already went wrong before noon. Families who keep wealth across generations tend to remove the decision from the equation entirely. Saving happens automatically before it can be spent on anything else. Investing happens on a fixed schedule without needing motivation that particular week. They're not more disciplined as people, and this is genuinely the part I want you to hear the most out of this whole section. They just stop depending on discipline in the first place and let a system quietly carry the weight instead. That's not a personal flaw being corrected through sheer effort. That's just a smarter architecture, built around an ordinary, tired, distracted human being, which is what all of us actually are, most days, whether we admit it or not. Mindset 5, the one almost nobody talks about. They talk about money openly, especially with their kids. This is the important one, the one that never gets a headline, never gets a dramatic documentary segment. Most families treat money like something private, a shameful act, even inside their own household, behind their own closed doors. Kids grow up watching their parents stress about bills through a literal closed door, whispered arguments, tense silences at the dinner table, but never actually learning how a budget works, how debt behaves, or what any of the numbers on those bills genuinely mean. Then those kids grow into adults who are financially anxious and financially uneducated at the exact same time. That's a brutal combination, and it's an incredibly common one, far more common than people admit out loud. Families whose wealth actually survives tend to do the opposite, on purpose, deliberately. They talk about money at the dinner table. Not with shame, not with fear, just with the same plainness you'd use to talk about anything else important in a family. school, health, weekend plans. That openness is very often the actual inheritance, more than the money itself. The conversation is the asset that keeps quietly compounding long after any specific dollar amount is gone and forgotten. Mindset 6. They protect against single points of failure. One income, one asset, one plan, with absolutely no backup in place. That's fragile, even when it looks impressive on paper, even when it looks like success to everyone watching from the outside looking in. Lasting wealth tends to come from multiple directions at once, so that one bad year, one lost job, one market downturn doesn't collapse the entire structure all at once, all together. This isn't about chasing every opportunity that walks by, or spreading yourself thin trying to do 5 things badly instead of one thing well. It's about deliberately not building something that a single bad month could completely wipe out overnight. A little redundancy, built in early and quietly maintained, does far more protective work than most people realize, until the exact year they actually need it, when it's suddenly the only thing standing between them and real trouble. Mindset 7. They define enough, on purpose, before more shows up. This might be the most powerful one on the entire list, and it's honestly the one I think about the most. Without a defined version of enough, more money just means more spending, forever, on a treadmill that never actually arrives anywhere no matter how fast it goes or how long you stay on it. Families who keep wealth tend to decide, ahead of time, what a genuinely comfortable life actually requires for them specifically, not for their neighbor, not for whoever they're quietly comparing themselves to online. Everything past that defined number becomes a choice. Invest it, give it away, save it for something that actually matters years from now, instead of an automatic, invisible upgrade to how much they spend every single time their income happens to go up. That one definition, made honestly and revisited so often as life genuinely changes, is often the real difference between wealth that keeps quietly expanding in the background and wealth that keeps evaporating into a slightly bigger lifestyle every single year, without anyone ever consciously choosing it to happen that way. Here's what I think really shifts. Once you see all 7 of these laid out together instead of scattered across a lifetime of half lessons picked up here and there. Generational wealth was never a gift someone hands you, wrapped up, finished, complete, ready to use. It's a way of thinking someone models for you, either on purpose or completely by accident, and you either absorb it or you don't, and either way, you'll end up passing something forward whether you meant to or not. And here's the part that tends to catch people off guard the most. The part I think actually matters more than anything else in this entire video. None of these 7 mindsets require you to already be wealthy, not a single one of them. You can start every one of these this week, with whatever amount of money you currently have sitting in your account right now, no matter how small that number feels to you in this exact moment. Which means the real question was never, will I inherit wealth? It's actually something closer to, am I building the kind of thinking that would survive being handed to someone else? Because if it wouldn't survive that handoff, if it only works because you happen to be the one holding it right now, it's not actually generational at all. It's just temporary, no matter how impressive it looks on paper this particular year. And once that clicks, something in your chest loosens a little. This was never a game you missed the start of. It's not a race where everyone else got a head start you can't ever recover from. It's a way of thinking you can start practicing today, quietly, without an inheritance, without a lucky break, without anyone clapping for it at all. Nobody posts a photo of a healthy mindset online, but it's the thing actually doing all the real work underneath every single photo you've ever quietly envied. So what does this actually look like in real life, without turning into some extreme, unrealistic overhaul of your entire personality overnight? Because that's genuinely not what I'm asking of you here. Pick one purchase this month and sit with a small, honest discomfort instead of reaching for the upgrade automatically. Just notice what that actually feels like, without judging yourself for it. Automate one amount, even a genuinely small one, so it moves before you have the chance to spend it or talk yourself out of it later in the week. Have one open, plain conversation about money with someone younger in your life this month, even if it feels a little awkward at first, even if you're still figuring some of it out yourself as you go along. Write down, honestly, what enough would actually look like for your specific life. Not somebody else's life, not the version you see online, and let that number quietly guide what happens with anything that comes in past it. And if you only do one of these 7 things this month, let it be the conversation. Out of everything on this list, that's the one that costs absolutely nothing and compounds the longest, across the most years, across the most people. None of this is dramatic. None of it will look impressive tomorrow morning, or even next month, or even next year. But mindset, repeated quietly for years, is what actually becomes generational. Not the amount you started with, not the lucky break you never got. The thinking underneath it all. That's the actual asset being passed down, long after everything else is spent or forgotten. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. You were never missing an inheritance. At most, you were missing a way of thinking that nobody ever sat down and explained to you clearly, until right now, until this exact video, on this exact day. That changes today. Not because your bank account transforms overnight. It won't. And anyone promising you that isn't being honest with you. And you should be skeptical of anyone who is. But because now you actually know what compounds across years, and eventually across the people you love most. Thinking in decades instead of paychecks. Talking about money without shame instead of behind closed doors. Defining enough on your own terms, before more money quietly defines it for you instead. You don't need a bigger inheritance. You need a mindset worth passing down, and that starts with you, starting now, today, with whatever you actually have in front of you at this exact moment. If this changed how you think about what wealth really is, hit that like button, tell me in the comments which of these 7 mindsets you're starting with this week, and subscribe to the channel, because there's more of this coming and I don't want you to miss it. I'll see you in the next one.